Leslie's there. Leslie.
Hi, everyone.
Morning. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Start, right?
Well, we'll start.
Okay. Good morning and welcome to our task force meeting. Thank you all for being here, and thank you also for the people online. I wish you were here. We do have quiche and fruit and some coffee cake. I'd send it to you if I could, but at any rate, I think today, hopefully we are going to come together to approve the findings report, which is a long time in coming. We've had lots of discussions around it, and this is only the beginning because the real work is going to take place next year as we move forward in the recommendations. I have a feeling that, and Andy can probably say more, but I have a feeling that sometime over the next couple of months, the task force will be asked to speak to members of the legislature once the legislative session is ended about the process that took place and how we arrived at what we're doing. The legislature appears to be giving us another co-chair, a tri-chair, which is fine, you know, but I'm not sure how that came about in the middle of the work, but regardless, you know, we can use all the help we can get. So with that said, what I'd like to do though quickly is, because we have a couple of people sitting in for other people, if we can just do introductions, and I'll start online. Let's see, who's up in the left hand corner?
Susan Yankee. Susan Yankee.
Susan, you introduce yourself and just say where you're from.
Thank you. Usually with a Y name, I'm never first, so I was a little shocked.
Yeah.
Susan Yankee. I am the chair of the Connecticut Special Education Advisory Council.
Thank you. And
Jen, Lucier.
Jen.
Good morning, Jennifer Lucier. I'm representing the Connecticut Parent Advocacy Center.
Leslie.
Good morning, everyone. Leslie Torres Rodriguez, Superintendent and CEO of Hartford Public Schools. Nice to see you all.
You too. Brian.
Morning, everyone. Brian Klimkowitz, Special Education Division Director at the State Department of Education.
And Stephanie.
Hi, Stephanie Wanzer. I'm here for CEA and I'm their treasurer. I will have to jump off because I have students and so I won't be able to do it very long. So Ray will be sitting in for me.
Thank you. So we'll start with Mike. Thank you. And thank you for being here online. Mike.
Mike Grove, Assistant Superintendent Emeritus of Public Schools here for Caswell. Ray Rossamondo with CEA replaces Stephanie when she needs to go back to the classroom.
Lisa Hammersley, I'm the Executive Director of the School and State Finance Department. Good morning, Karen Helene, Director of Benjamin School here for CAPSA.
Jason Adler, School Counselor, also on the Planning Board of Education, and I'm here for AFT.
Amanda Feinstein, co-chair of a lawyer private practice in Mystic and also involved with special education equity for kids.
I'm Fran Rabinowitz. I'm the co-chair and I'm also the executive director for the Connecticut Association of Public School Superintendents.
Hi, Heather Tartaglia, Chief Program Officer at FREC and here for the Best Alliance.
Sarah Flaherty, CA Secretary, parent of a special ed student and teacher at Chicago. Sally Drew, Associate Professor of Special Education at Sacred Heart University, here representing Education Prep, and I direct our special ed programs.
Josh Martin, Director of People Services with East Haven Public Schools, and I'm here representing CONTES.
And I think Alicia Bowman just joined us as well. Morning, Alicia. What I would say to you is I really appreciate all of you, and I appreciate your commitment to the work. I think that this was a hard task that was given to us, and it's always very difficult to be part of a task force where there are many, many different perspectives and try to bring those perspectives together into findings that are significant but realistic. And then our second part of the work is going to be incredibly difficult, which is moving to the recommendations. I would also say to you that I apologize because several times this year, I know I had to cancel the task force meetings, and I apologize for that. It was, surgery and other family things that came into play, but I appreciate your understanding, and I'm hoping, sincerely hoping that we will have a schedule as we move forward into the recommendations that we can stick to. So I just wanted to say that because I'm very appreciative of your understanding. It was just beyond my control.
Do we have a deadline? And the next deadline is a more serious deadline. The word I'm getting from the chairs and the ranking members of the education committee is that next year is going to be the year of special education in the legislature. That if we come up with recommendations, they will be taken with extreme seriousness, and that they're really looking to us to deal with some of the issues of which there's been a lot of cross pressure of late, including restricted seclusion, including the age of development of disability, and a variety of other issues that have come before observations, a variety of other issues that have come before the committee. And so we are 5 months late on our current report, or maybe 4 months. I think we moved to February. We're 4 months late, but we don't have that. We don't have that luxury for our January deadline. So we really do have to come up with recommendations. And I do think that, from my view, it is better to come up with perhaps division on major issues rather than ignoring major issues. And so I think we really have to confront the major issues facing special education, and make recommendations if we can, or not make recommendations if we can't reach agreement with those. We do have to confront them. So.
The only thing that I would add to what Andy said is, well, two things. Number one, I was really worried that these findings, and as we move forward to recommendations, that they would be pablum, that they would be like other special ed task forces. Sorry, guys, but other special ed task forces have come again, gone, and then they created another task force because the task forces didn't say very much. But I have to say, as I read through, I think I first have to say to my co-chair, I think he did a phenomenal job on the report, quoting the statistics, getting everything in there. And I'm very, very grateful to him. I can write, but I don't like to write. And he does, and he did an excellent job of it. I also think, as I looked through it, there are significant findings in there. And the findings were the easy part. I think when we go to really working sincerely and deeply on the recommendations, we may not be in agreement, and we may have to provide many perspectives on the recommendations. But the findings in my book are what the major issues are in special ed right now. And we may not agree on, things like, you know, where I come from on the eligibility piece. You might not agree with me on that. But I think we've got to get, all of our perspectives, out there and, so it's gonna be hard work for the recommendations, but at any rate, I thought the findings were wonderfully written. But, we're open now to, anything further that you want to add before we go forward with, approving the report to send it in to, yes.
Is this the right time?
Yeah.
Okay. Under approved private special education programs, number 5. I think I might have said this before.
Okay, Oh, I don't have my attachment.
Page 14. On the bottom left is, oh, you know it.
Yeah.
Did you find it?
Yeah.
Under eligibility.
Yeah.
Is it under eligibility?
Yeah.
You're gonna sit before eligibility.
Or-
Got it. Approved private special.
Okay.
education.
The word loosely, that phrase loosely regulated nature, loosely feels a little bit more than a finding. I wondered if we could say, highlighting areas for improvement in private special education programs. I also wondered, since it's a finding, if it might be helpful to put a statement in there that approved privates are regulated by standards that were most recently approved in 2021. And even as Andy's put other links, maybe even put a link to those standards so that they're right there. Because I know sometimes questions come up about how approved privates are regulated, but we would have that link right there.
I have no problem with you providing some additional language to that effect.
Okay.
I don't think anything you said really concerns me. What does concern me is the fact that there was a really very significant report on hybrid that came out, and I think we may be negligent in not referencing that here.
I mean, everybody read it and saw it, right?
Yep.
So we should probably say something, even if we agree or disagree, we probably should
Yeah.
say there was something about it. I mean, the whole state saw it.
Sure. I mean, I think as long as we're saying, you know, perhaps we say something like the Office of the Child Advocate and Disability Rights Connecticut completed an investigation, maybe we even provide the link to the investigation, completed an investigation that has some, identifying some serious concerns. The Connecticut State Department of Education is following up. You know, I don't want to speak for Brian, but the State Department of Ed might want to say something to that. Brian?
I would just point out that there are many investigations that, you know, that is one obviously notable one that OCA conducted, but it's not the only one that's happened during our time together as a task force. So just wondering what the purpose of in the context of eligibility that we would reference. I think it's important to just, you know, I'm sorry, I don't know who said that it would be notable to put it in the, you know, to add it into the findings from us. We had a very successful meeting. I know Susan and Jen are on the State Advisory Council as well as other Joshes as well, where OCA took the time for a subcommittee to, you know, deliver some information around that investigation. And then, you know, the Connecticut State Department of Education is also following up specifically with some of the allegations within the report. So I would just point out that that's not the only investigation in an approved private special education school. It is a notable one though. And it occurred over a 2-year time frame as well. So that it actually started before the task force started.
Well, my concern is there are specific recommendations in that OCA report. And I'm not sure we're prepared to endorse those recommendations. And so I think we want to word it in terms of these are issues for further exploration as to whether the recommendations are whether the direction they're going in is in fact sound, and whether the findings in relationship to High Road are you know, the tip of the iceberg of schools or whether High Road was an exception.
You can
Which
say
we don't know.
the task force is going to look into it.
I think that's right.
Develop recommendations.
I think that's right, John.
So let me understand. So we're going to take out the word loosely?
That was my suggestion, replacing it with, issued a series of reports in February 2018 highlighting areas for improvement in private special education programs in the state. And then, a statement regarding how, approved privates are approved and have maybe a link to those standards.
Okay.
I can do that, Andy, if you want me to do that.
Please,
and then send it to
please.
you.
And then we're all,
And then the additional language.
and then the additional language about the
Yeah.
OCA report and link to that, and that we're looking into that.
Okay, let's just make sure that we get that because I'm hoping to get an approval today.
Yes.
So let's get it with that extended,
I can do it right now.
language.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Is the report still in Google? The
Oh,
most recent I have it's in Word.
Word.
Huh?
Do you want me to put it in Google?
Well, it's on Google Drive as well.
No, you sent it as a Word doc.
I did, but I just popped it out. We already changed it. Last Google Drive.
All right, just so we make sure we get
Yeah.
that language and we get
Yeah.
approval of the report with that language in it.
Okay, next change, problem with
I'm sorry, I just need to get clarity. So Brian raised a question as to, well, is the OCA report going to be referenced? I'm not sure that I heard yes or no.
I thought the answer was yes, that it's going to be
Okay.
referenced, but that we're looking into it. But not, yeah, we're not endorsing the recommendations there.
And then Brian, do you feel you got your answer in terms of like why within the eligibility section? I think I heard you ask that question, but I don't know if I heard
I'll
the
have
answer.
to see it within the context of the report, how that applies or how it aligns. I think I might have a different draft version because I was looking on the bottom of page 14 and didn't see it. But Kieran, I also highlighted that word loosely because there are heavy regulations in place for APSEPs in the document that you referred to. And there was a very specific charge for the auditors based on the new legislation around contracts. And so that generated the process that we have in place. So, but yeah, I'm comfortable with that as long as there's some alignment.
Well, that's quite correct. I mean, the first sentence refers to the 2018 reports of the auditors, and there've been substantial changes since then.
Right.
Oh.
So Brian, I was hoping to achieve a couple of things with my, suggested edits. One was that there were areas for improvement that were, identified in that, in those reports from the auditors. And then in terms of, replacing the term loosely with what the fact is, and the fact is that approved privates have, standards that they have to meet, and the State Department of Ed is responsible for overseeing that. Just identifying that as a fact and then linking that to the standards. Are you comfortable with that, Brian?
Absolutely.
Okay. And so I'll add a statement that OCA and DRCT recently completed an investigation related to one of the approved privates and in the link.
And just to note, this is in the funding section, not in the eligibility section.
I just feel strongly that we need something in there.
Okay.
Any objections? Okay.
Let's move
Karen,
along.
could you just read your language again, one more time?
Let me write it in, and I have it like written here.
Circle back. Let's circle
Yeah,
back.
circle back, yes. I'll remind you if you.
Okay.
I know Ray is chopping at the bit.
Yeah.
I have a question. And staying within this paragraph,
Oh,
it's with the spirit of sticking to findings versus recommendations, the last sentence does read like a recommendation.
The last sentence where?
In the same paragraph.
law contract.
I suggest we just strike that and defer that to the recommendation report.
I'm okay with that.
Just strike the last sentence in its entirety.
I think it's been punted to the recommendation report. Yeah, strike it, but not forget.
maybe
Or will
wording, but
explore.
the task force will explore.
Yeah, that probably works better.
That works too.
Yeah.
I mean, I can do that while in the same paragraph.
Okay, I can do it right now.
Okay, good, thanks.
We'll explore model contract.
Well, we'll explore the
Examples,
feasibility of
yes.
model contract.
Yeah.
We'll explore the
Yeah.
feasibility.
Feasibility of, okay.
It's feasible.
Feasibility.
Okay.
It's so hard to do that while you're typing.
Want me to start?
No, keep going.
That's what you understand Google Drive.
But it's purple as well.
So I just had one on page, I think it's about page 7. It's where it's highlighted.
Yeah, there are a couple of highlighted sections. Right?
Yeah. I just wondered about this second sentence. Reportedly, some school administrators concerned about the number of students eligible for special ed may discourage this sort of reporting.
I agree. I have concerns about that too. I'm not sure what that.
What does that mean?
I almost think that whole highlighted section could be removed.
I think it's highlighted for a reason.
What?
The part that says to be sure, and then the
Yeah.
next paragraph, school staff members. I don't know if either of those are necessary.
Is that why it was highlighted? Because it was a concern?
Yes, I think so.
Oh, highlighted, yeah.
We can't hear you,
Susan,
Susan.
if you're
You're on
talking, we
mute.
can't hear you.
It's probably better you can't, but I just want to make sure that this part about that eligibility requires a medical diagnosis and that can be a barrier for lower income families. Is there a way that could stay in a version?
The first paragraph without the second.
Yeah, the first, or if you need
She's
to.
talking about the
recraft
starting the
it.
second sentence, first paragraph.
Well,
Yeah.
The issue
Highlighted.
is, and Catherine was quite, Catherine Meyer, I know she's not here today, but was advocating for this. Oh,
Ryan,
you're
I'm here.
I was speaking.
Careful what you
Catherine.
say about me,
I
Ryan.
was gonna say all good things, Catherine.
Of course.
It's nice to see you this morning. What I was gonna say is that I think what your point was is that the perception out there is the reality, because that's not true. So the second sentence, the need for a diagnosed disability, which is not required, could produce. So we'd have to clarify that language to say there's a misperception that special education eligibility requires a medical diagnosis, and that misperception could cause barriers. Then we're okay with that first paragraph, at least in my opinion. And I also agree with the earlier comments about the school administrators concerned discouraging referrals is very problematic. If true, obviously that's a significant concern, but I'm not sure that's a finding we've uncovered.
First sentence of the second paragraph, I mean, we don't go directly to special education, right? We have to use our tiers, but.
Yeah, I just have a problem with that paragraph.
well, you're talking about the bottom paragraph. Let's work on the first paragraph.
All right.
I mean, I think the first paragraph sort of says what you're saying, Brian, but we can change it. The first sentence, nothing in the law to prevent schools from making the type of diagnosis necessary, right? That's.
Right. I think Brian's saying, to clarify that next, still, the misperception exists that
Well,
eligibility
there is-
requires a medical diagnosis, comma, this is
Yeah.
untrue, or this is not correct. Just to highlight
I put it in.
so that,
Okay,
Okay.
did I understand you correctly?
And then in the third sentence, it should say the perceived need. I don't know.
Got it.
Right.
We also don't know, like we say, the perception exists. I mean, is that across the state? Is it in certain circumstances? Is it with specific administrators? Because it that screams for a need for training and accurate information and resources to make sure that folks have the accurate information if there is a perception there. But that perception exists as kind of a blanket statement across the state, which, I don't know if that could be worded a little differently, but.
I would agree.
Well, I think in all of these things, again, this is the anecdotal, these are themes, these are general themes that are experienced by parents and parent attorneys. There's gonna have to be, in order to not be inaccurate or frankly offensive, there's gonna have to be some vagueness around it, because we can't invalidate the experience of one side because we don't, we're not giving specific details in the report. So I think if we give some of these things that say there is a misperception, or this is the experience of some families, we have to allow for some of that.
Or maybe there may be a misperception, or there's a misperception amongst some, or something like that.
That's
like
fine.
something
Yeah,
that,
I mean,
that just gives it a,
Something just because as is, it seems like a,
Yeah.
a broad based.
Misperception exists among some.
Massive.
About some.
We could use some for anything. I mean, like,
Tell me about.
that doesn't bother me.
So still, there is a perception among some that eligibility requires, yeah,
Because this is not
Okay.
correct, Eric.
yeah,
Um,
among some. Okay, that's.
Fit there.
all right, in the last paragraph,
I'm gonna unhighlight that. Everybody's okay with that.
the last paragraph is gone.
The last paragraph's gone. Thank you.
Actually, in terms of the last paragraph, why don't we take the first sentence and head into the first paragraph?
Yeah,
And then highlight the rest.
I would, that's fine with
So yeah,
me.
we don't jump directly to it. Just-
Yeah, because
we
I
know
do-
it's Tiered interventions. I know
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't
They're
necessarily.
lacking.
I do think that the first sentence
It's
is
fine.
fine.
So got that here.
Delete the rest of it?
Yeah, delete the rest.
Okay. Yeah, got it.
Um,
There was another highlighted section, wasn't
No, it's the
I think we go.
only one I have to say.
it? Okay.
So, the next paragraph where it talks about brain science. So the brain science studies tell us that literacy skills need to be taught before they're pretty great to produce a fluent reader. It almost seems like any instruction after that would not lead to a fluent reader, which I think is exactly.
Got a softer word than need to.
Best to be taught.
Sufficient.
Right.
Well, it could be like there's an ideal window. It's ideal.
Ideally,
Is ideally.
ideally, yeah,
So ideally before literacy skills.
yeah, before,
skills,
Before-
ideally after.
ideally,
skills.
yeah.
Ideally.
Or
Brian, you know you gotta shout out, Brian. Shout it out.
Judgment stone.
Brian has his hand up.
I didn't want to shout out because I'm slow today, but the sentence, Andy, sorry to go backwards here because I know we're making great progress, but the first sentence to move up to the first paragraph, school staff members have the obligation to refer struggling students. Are folks worried that that's too generic and general? Because, students may struggle but not be required to have a special education referral. Because there's the combination, there's the language from the statutes and the regulations. I don't know how specific we wanted to be here. If it's a child find issue, so school staff have child find obligations. If the staff suspect a disability is impacting the student's educational project and their behavior or academic performances of marginal. I think struggle, that was just something that jumped out to me that I wanted to mention. If folks are okay with it, then we can keep it, but.
Well, I mean, I mentioned after going through SRBI or SRBI steps or, tiers.
I wouldn't put
Oh,
that
we don't-
impediment. I think
That's
I would
not the
just,
requirement.
I would just track the child find language, like Brian said. I mean, just use the same language.
Maybe
Sorry.
we could just refer the child find language there directly.
Well, I mean, but the real point is you have an obligation to refer struggling students to PPTs to consider evaluations. Would that help you, Brian?
Well, I struggle with the word struggle, no pun intended. Because again, many students may struggle and not require PPT 1 because the school may not suspect that the disability is impacting or leading to that area of struggle for the student. So that's why I would like the language to be in alignment with the requirements. But again, if, you know, I've seen, sounds nitpicky, but many of our students struggle that aren't, where, you know, there isn't a PPT 1 requirement for those students.
Yeah, I mean, the language of the regulation is broad enough. I mean, all students who have been suspended repeatedly, marginal level of progress, et cetera, et cetera. So might as well just use that.
But the state might use it.
Sure, what we're putting in.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you're suggesting here.
Replace that language with
With
the
child
child
find.
find language.
Could you give us the child find language?
Could you put it in?
Or put it in,
Are
yeah.
you in?
Sure. Is there a Google link?
I'll share with you, Ryan.
Thank you, Heather. I'll put it in the comment section as a consideration. Sorry to go backwards, but it just, that was, like I said, I was struggling with the struggling.
Tonight, I'm gonna change the date on the top of this document.
Yes. Yeah, sorry about that.
No, that's okay. Thank you.
Just continuing on, I know that Josh, you had some recommendations about the first paragraph, the next paragraph.
I think we hit that already.
Okay, yeah, the first sentence I had just highlighted as a question where it says special education is provided when a student's unable to keep up with general education curriculum due to the student's disability.
What's your concern about that?
Well, again, I think we get onto it a little bit later, but you know, the special you get into the kind of the three factors. Does the student have a disability? Do they require specially designed instruction? You know, and the impact on the education. Again, I'm being nitpicky here, but it's
So we could just say special education is provided when those three.
I don't know where that sentence came from. You know, it's not. I have some, I know we're not wordsmithing either, so that's why I'm cautious about these, but I just didn't want any misperceptions, you know, from the folks that are going to be reading the report. But we could always clarify it if needed after as well.
Well, yeah, I hope nobody's gonna be relying on this report for legal interpretation.
Right.
No. Okay, I mean, I'm okay with saying special education is provided when a student has a disability and by virtue of that disability requires specialized instruction and related services.
Yeah, it's a little different.
Is that better?
Yes.
Not quite as readable, but more accurate.
Okay. Has a disability, say that again, that qualifies them?
No, it has a disability and by virtue of that disability requires specialized instruction and related services.
Yes.
Yeah. Next.
Did have a bolded area. Is that what you think you meant by highlighted? This is this is under 3 funding of charter magnet, CT, agri-science school. I have no paper. I'm looking at a paper copy just like
It's
you.
on page 21.
Thank you. But it is bolded at the end.
Yeah.
I didn't have a problem with it, but I didn't know if that's what I wanted to look into. Yes. There? Oh, yeah. So I don't know if that's something that you wanted to review because it's bolded. But not.
Well, I'd like to turn to Lisa on this one. We have a complete mess of the funding of various schools.
Well, with regards to special education, that term reasonable cost is in statute in a number of areas. But I do know that the state Board of Education just issued a ruling that I didn't read through yet. So I would like to defer to Brian as to what the State Department or the State Board of Education ruled with regards to the billing and payment of special ed, particularly in charter schools.
Well, I can tell you, I mean, the State Department of Education did a declaratory judgment relating to both Waterbury and New Haven, saying that the LEA
Yeah.
owes the actual costs of providing special ed services at charter schools.
So the finding here could be that the law could be clearer, and instead of using, this would be a recommendation ultimately, instead of using the word reasonable cost, that it should align with the ruling and by the State Board of Education and reflect actual costs.
I'm concerned about the impact of that sort of language. It seems to undercut what the State Department of Education did, or State Board did.
If it's actual, which is what they found in their.
They found actual, but, you know, they found reasonable means actual. And if we're saying that the statute has to be amended to say what they already said it says, it seems to undercut the legal impact of that declaratory ruling.
I don't think so. I think it would just make it align. The statute would reflect what the State Board of Education found.
Recently found.
It's clear.
Okay, okay.
It made references.
Yeah, that's true.
That's one issue that we can clarify, but the other issue is the current array of statutory provisions on how schools of choice are funded.
Yeah.
Now, that's not a particular special ed issue.
No.
And is the reasonable cost language true for all types of schools of choice?
That's what the statute is.
Okay, so dealing with the incredible array of different funding schemes for different schools of the state is not something we need to deal with. We just need to make sure that reasonable costs meet actual costs.
I mean, I, Lisa Hammersley, Executive Director of the School and State Finance Project, would love for the state to assume the cost of special education for
understand that.
students that exercise choice, because I don't think it should be a responsibility of the sending district, which also is trying to provide special education services for the students that they are actually educating within their district. So that would be a lofty goal of ours, to have the state assume all of the costs and to not have it be the financial responsibility of the sending district, who has no choice and no decision making for the services that are actually being provided in the school systems. That's aspirational, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you did pretty well this year, at least for 215, for 25. 26 and beyond, not so well.
Not so much, but, you know, I think that this report saying that there could be, that the statute could be clearer in that, you know, something, if the rest of the members agree that something to the effect of, you know, the state should be assuming the cost of special, or.
That's a recommendation.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be happy to get on that.
I don't know how we can put it here in the findings, but just that it's not clear all of the rules. And I think another finding is that it creates tension between the sending district and the schools of choice,
Certainly does.
you know, and
Right.
that's not productive for anybody.
No,
No.
and it's, every school charges differently. You know what I mean? And that's
That's right.
also a fight that we always have, right?
Yeah.
There's different prices and different schemes of how they charge. You know, it's per hour, are they dividing the service up? Is it like one pair of three people? And it becomes, we sit at the table and we're like, we just look at it as a lot more expensive than we would charge for a service, and that becomes a fight.
Yep.
I totally agree, like,
Well, I see 3 hands up, but Lisa, let me ask you this. What's the argument for the state paid special ed costs at schools of choice, but not paying special ed costs elsewhere?
I mean, I think the state should pay for both.
Fine, fine, right.
God bless you.
Brian, get your wallet out. Well, I'm just gonna go across the top. Susan first.
Oh. Sorry. Yeah, I just have a quick question. If you have a student with a 504 plan and they need accommodations and possible outside service providers, does that come from special education budget or the general education budget? I see Brian going, no special education budget.
Well, it doesn't come out of the IDEA, but it could come from local district special education budget.
Okay, great. So when we are talking about students with disabilities in this document, we got to make sure, we should clarify that these are students with IEPs. Because legislators will assume that we're covering all students with all disabilities. And when we're talking about cost funding and stuff, that's special ed money. Am I correct? Or someone put me on the right
I
path?
just wonder if the title of our task force, Special Education Task Force, kind of covers that we're just focusing on, because it's clearly defined in statutes what special education is under the IDEA and
Okay.
what that is. I don't know if that could just be my perception.
Okay.
Well, we do, it is described, eligibility for special education. I don't know what page that is, but in the beginning of the report, description of special education in Connecticut. It is described there. Under the IDEA categories.
I do think we should say something about the state paying for the cost of special ed. I mean, I will tell you that it does set up a very tense situation between sending schools and charters or schools of choice. I can speak as a former superintendent in Bridgeport. I didn't always agree with what the costs were at the charter schools. It just seemed ridiculous in some instances, and but maybe I was wrong, but I just, I just know that it set up a lot of tense situations for us.
So I work in an agri-science school, which is part of this as well. And I think we're linked, we grouped charter schools, magnet schools, our tech schools and agri-science all in one group. And I mean, when we have PPTs with our sending schools, the PPT is housed based on the sending school. They're the ones in charge of the meeting.
Yep.
So we're talking about, they have to agree to the services that everybody has to agree to the services that we're providing. I mean, we just had a student that has to have a one-on-one because a para, because they're a runner, but that had to get approved. So you're saying that the sending school might not approve of the cost of hiring another para?
No, I would agree to the services, but
So the
sometimes the
cost of
way
those services
the
that
costs
we're-
were estimated were much higher,
Well, yeah, I feel like the bills where I work versus some of the sending schools are different.
Let's hear from Brian and Leslie, and then circle back to conclude on this issue. Brian,
Just a very brief comment. I agree with a lot of the comments. Andy, you made the point that I was going to make. There's nothing different about funding choice than there is about any student, because you pointed it out, Tara, that the responsibility is for special education relies in the resident town of where the parent lives. So how we're able to distinguish that, the charters and school districts work collaboratively in many circumstances on the costs. The important point is the cost is established by the charter school because of the actual cost of their staffing, the actual cost of delivering the services in that program. So our concern is to ensure that the students are receiving the services that they're required and recommended in the planning and placement team meeting. But I think there was a point earlier about the variable ways that districts document those costs. And so there's definitely some work that can be done. It is also confusing, and I agree with not lumping it in because there are different rules for charters than interdistrict magnets and technical high schools. And so it can get very complex and confusing. So it would be great to have some type of an alignment and, across the various choice programs, if possible, to align language. So we would be all for that.
Well, Leslie, who's the greatest victim of this?
I don't want to make it about us, and we are disproportionately impacted, and I think that's my double click on some of the things that Lisa was lifting. And so I think referencing that it has to be examined at the very least, it warrants an examination, because for us that impact means that we are not able to serve the remaining students to the degree that we would want to, given the fiscal constraints, as a result of, right, the disproportionate, amount of money that we have to pay out. So how that shows up, while I'm not making it about Hartford, we are talking about, right, special education students. And so, not referencing it somehow, the disproportionate impact, I think, would be an oversight.
Let me suggest, and I'm just throwing this out, I'm not sure I even believe it. Let me suggest that we have a sense that the task force will explore how best to fund special ed services at schools of choice.
Are we doing it with a period after funding special education? Isn't that one of our things? For this second?
Yeah, I mean, we have two issues. We have two major issues here. One, we have the conflict between the 70 district and the school of choice in terms of how you calculate that cost. And second, we have the issue of lack of uniformity among schools of choice in terms of how funding works. And so, that's why I'm proposing that sort of, let's look into that later. What do you think? It does fail to deal with the issue that I raised and Brian raised, which is, what's the difference between special ed costs in district and special ed costs in the school of choice? I mean, they're both special ed costs, they're both a lot, and and if there's a justification for the state to provide funding for one, why not for the other? But
I also think, in my comment in saying the state should pay for it, that's a recommendation. That's not a finding. Good morning. Good morning, Patrice.
My apologies.
I'm no longer beholden to you, Patrice.
Pardon me?
I'm no longer beholden to you. I've been cut out of the task force. What?
Not by my doing,
I know.
trust me.
Have we landed on like?
Maybe I take one.
You good?
Yeah, it's kind of.
Okay.
Can we, in the sentence before the bolded one, can we take out the word and irrational and that last sentence and put in something what you just said?
Yeah.
So can we take out that and,
Irrational seems more emotional.
yeah, it seems like an emotional.
Can I just to pick up on Tara's point, I was actually thinking in the same area. It sounds like what I'm hearing is issues with predictability and comparability, as opposed to confusing and irrational, although they may be confusing and irrational. Would the words predictability and comparability make more sense? Comparability across districts? And sufficiency is another issue, I understand that.
Well, I don't know, maybe, I think the history is probably what's going on, which is that they were, each of these was added to the legislation at various times with different ideas of how you ought to be funding.
Right, we're just identifying the problem being,
Maybe that's all we say. Maybe that's the finding.
What's that?
Just that it's, task force finds that the current array of statutory provisions on how schools of choice are paid for the costs of special education services to students living in various districts is confusing.
Period.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just the finding and then.
I think they got the last sentence, the bold sentence.
Yeah, take it out.
And then we can work on that. In our next one.
Yeah.
Confusing and irrational.
No, we're not.
We're not taking we're taking irrational.
We're taking irrational out?
Yeah.
Why? I think it is irrational.
And we're also adding language, are we adding language that says the legislature should, amend the language to have, in conformity with findings?
So would that be in our next report though? I think you find that to the recommendation
That's my
report.
recommendation.
Yeah, put it in the recommendation
Yes.
report.
Question, how do we land on the reasonable cost, however, it's not defined? Have we discussed the?
What page are you on right now? What page or what
Page
section?
21.
Thank you.
Under number 3, funding charter magnet. What line are you in? Oh, that right there, yeah.
Right, but you had discussed it, but I wasn't sure where you all landed.
Well, I mean, where it came up was in this dispute that went to the State Board of Education.
So maybe put an asterisk or a footnote noting that, so.
Updated. And so, maybe we can take that out because the controversy's now been settled.
Or maybe you say it was settled that it was settled. Like, we can put a footnote where it was for a link.
We can say the term reasonable cost has recently been defined.
Well, except that from
Might not be
from what I'm hearing, Virtuoso is going to court to challenge it. Well, I'm not sure it has been said.
Maybe we just stick with the facts. Right, the state board of ed defined reasonable cost in recent statute.
Or you could say the term reasonable cost, however, is not statutorily defined, because that's true.
I like that.
What did you say?
It's not statutorily defined.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just add the word statutorily before, fine.
Yeah.
Nobody judge. Second.
Right? And you're all making changes and all.
I put some, we're working on it.
Yeah,
Did we get the child fine language?
I guess my suggestion is that, that we provisionally approach something at this meeting and then we send it out, and give people 24 hours to.
Right.
actually approach
So
it.
I was doing strike throughs, I wasn't deleting. Because we're gonna send it out, and then so I think,
Yeah,
you want me to delete?
Make it look fine.
I'm not gonna do that.
I can do that, make it look fine.
I can go through at the beginning and do the.
Okay, I'll do it earlier.
It'd just be really helpful for me to see what we changed.
Okay.
Could just.
Two versions.
Yeah, well, could you
Oh,
send,
the-
could you just send what you've done so far to me as the strike through? Maybe in the Google Doc, I can show.
Google Doc
the-
shows history.
Okay, all right, good.
So delete.
Yeah.
You can just view the revision.
So we could do provisional approval here and then,
Final sign off that, yes, this is.
then you have 24 hours for final.
Yeah, well,
We're doing a CAT, midnight tomorrow.
Yeah, midnight tomorrow.
Nothing else.
Yeah, I'll put the clock
Same time as
over
the
it.
legislature, yeah. We'll put it in the implementer bill. I just had, one question on, the pre-K one.
Where's that?
I feel very strongly, as you do, about the age 3 to entry, to kindergarten, with the districts providing, services to the kids. And many times it's 3 days a week, half days, and parents don't avail themselves of it because of the schedule.
Yeah.
I just wondered if, we needed something stronger or just in addition to the result is, it's in the middle of that,
Right at the
third
end, right at the
paragraph.
end.
Yeah. The result is that many families opt to place their children in full-day private preschool programs. I get that, but I just wondered if we should say because of working obligations,
Explain it
families are forced to, place their children in full-day private. Just,
Well, there are other reasons they do it too.
Huh?
There are other reasons they do it too. They think their kid needs full-time park.
I think if I can hop in, I think I appreciate that point because I do sometimes hear districts saying, well, we offered you this, we offered you that. And it's logistically impossible for a family. So if there's a way we can say, that it's not, it doesn't, what's offered doesn't work for every family, just in terms of work logistics. And as a reminder, this is even more of an issue now that the kindergarten eligibility date was changed. With only very little notice to parents. And there's a lot of kids that are going to be, additionally added to that pool of kids.
To say something like, due to work obligations and other reasons.
Yeah, due to work, other obligations, other logistical
They
issues.
need
Yeah.
to place their children in
Yeah.
full day rather than opt to place.
Yeah. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I think that's phrased nicely.
Or maybe they opt to place their children in full-day private school due to, I would maybe put the due to at the end of the sentence.
Due to
So
working.
so the result is that many families opt to place their children in full-day private school programs and opt out of special education services due to their working obligations and other. Whatever.
Other
Other
logistical-
family, other logistics.
Yeah, I would, but I'm just limited to the logistics. I think parents place their kids in full-day programs because they think their kids need a full-day program. And the half-day program is just not sufficient. They want their kids socialized with other kids and all that sort of thing. So I think it's not just logistical reasons.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
No, I agree. I think this paragraph is hitting on two things though. One, it's hitting on full-day preschool for all is a really important thing, right? And we have students with special education needs who are also in preschool. And so I think it's important to somehow make this paragraph clear that if it's this task force's interpretation that we're looking for preschool for all, that's clear. And we definitely take exception with the quality of special education during those years is often inadequate.
Yeah.
Because if we were saying that preschool for all is critical, and we're going to offer everybody full-day preschool, and we're going to provide special education to meet those needs, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to make now special education twice as much, because that isn't what the student may need. So I think the special education services aren't necessarily inadequate simply because it's a partial day program. I think what I'm reading here is that we believe that preschool needs to be full day for all students to be improving, building social skills, building pre-academic skills, building emotional competencies.
Well, I do feel that, and I do think that, but I also think that, it's a relic to have part-time, preschool, for kids, and it's just a relic. And especially for students with, disabilities. They should be there full-time. That's.
But we're not making recommendations. Because I mean, a lot of stuff, and I don't want to go over it because I don't want to last
you're
forever,
right.
but a
We're
lot of
not
our
making
findings sound like more than findings.
Yeah, I just wanted, I honestly just wanted to add something in there to say because of working obligations, or, I don't mind saying insufficiency of program.
Parents' perception of the need, it's not, I don't think it's any statement, but Brian, your hands up. Perpetually.
Lowered it yet? There we go. I agree. So the statement that says, because part-time nature of many preschool programs, the quality of special education in those years is often inadequate. I think that I agree with Josh that that doesn't mean it's inadequate for the students' needs. I also think if we're putting often programs run half days and 3 days a week, there are programs that run 5 days a week, and there are students that receive full day services in pre-K. So this makes it seem like there's an absence of that when there are programs that are full day, are 5 days a week, and students' IEPs reflect that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not looking to make a recommendation. I'm just looking to say why they need, full day programs.
Well, I'm hearing a proposal to eliminate the last 3 sentences of that paragraph, starting with because of the part-time nature and then the short change.
I'm okay with that as a finding. Ending paragraph after.
Well, we
Now
just
this
take that out.
Take that out.
These 3 sentences.
So it would end after, which is.
Yeah, but it turns out to put. Up in-
All right.
Yeah.
Cover the same thing.
Okay, I like that.
A lot of like that we're cutting out.
Doesn't change it's true that we're crossing it off, it just needs to be exposed.
Yeah. Are you speaking, Alicia? Not to us.
Regarding the developmental delay, which again, I totally agree with the.
Well, wait a second, Brian just raised his hand.
And again,
Oh, wait, you go ahead, Jason. I'll wait till after you.
well, I don't even know what page is, I'm on the paper copy, so it's behavior,
Okay, yeah, that's just before that, yeah.
In services.
yeah. So I'll wait for you to tell the page.
Behaviors on page 27, I
That's
believe.
so good. All right, so the task force therefore finds the developmental delay exceptionality should be available through H7. I totally agree with this, but it does sound like
Maybe
a recommendation.
Should consider.
I mean, you can have a word.
Where are you?
It's above behavior.
Last
Above
sentence.
behavior.
I apologize because I got them focusing on behavior.
You're right, because it is a,
I mean, I'd like to make the recommendation, but that's not our purview right now.
yeah.
Will further explore, therefore,
Yeah,
the task force will therefore will further explore developmental delay exceptionality remaining in failures. So.
yeah. I mean, just so many words to add it to make it not a mandate, but.
Brian,
So that kind of doesn't make sense now, though.
So remaining.
Remain, wait for someone, yeah.
Maybe folk, just so since we're in that section right now, I did have a comment on the age 5 cutoff leads to some students with serious issues losing the protections of special education because no specific diagnosis has been made. I just thought that I'm wondering where we're getting that information from, or, serious issues, it connotates that the student should remain eligible and isn't because of
behavior.
the need. So maybe folks are okay with that sentence. I just highlighted it as potentially.
How about may lead to some students?
Well, where did it come from?
it came from discussions of this group.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I mean, I believe it, but I don't have any data.
Yeah.
I just wonder also about the word issues. I'm not sure if issues is the right term to use.
That's what I highlighted.
When we're talking about
Serious-
children.
Like, what is serious issues that it's just.
About
If
may
you're
lead
either
to some
eligible or
students
you're
losing
not,
the protection of the special education system.
Yeah.
The age 5 cutoff may
May
lead
lead.
to some
May
students
lead.
losing,
May lead,
may lead
To some students
some students,
losing the protections.
yeah.
some students.
Getting rid of
Yeah,
what's
that's
serious.
good.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, all right.
That's
Yeah.
good.
I mean, I feel like if we're gonna say that, we might have to say the flip side, which is also that, you know, kind of what we had talked about. What we had talked about before in some of the peril of raising the age of eligibility for developmental delay is potentially pushing along kids and not giving them a specific categorization when they are eligible for one. So I mean, I think if we're talking about not recommendations, these are findings, I'm fine to keep that in, but I would appreciate like maybe we've kind of give that full round picture then.
And the next sentence should also say, it may also lead to.
Well, and Catherine's asking for additional
Yeah.
sentence.
So what would the additional sentence say?
I'm gonna be honest, I don't know where we are.
Page 27 above behavior.
But I am fully listening. Okay. My ears perk up when I hear certain things. Ooh. Okay, I'll find it. Thank you. Got it.
I think that the way those three sentences are written now might
So,
suffice.
so can I suggest so Catherine, with your point, the last sentence, which has been amended, and I'm going to butcher it because I don't have the live change. So the task force, we're changing it to make it a finding versus a recommendation. And maybe adding should remain available through age 7 and the repercussions that such a decision may entail, or?
I think if we say the task force will further explore the development delay exceptionality remaining available through age 7, means you're going to talk about the whole issue. I think as soon as you start to clarify it and narrow in what we're doing, it creates too narrow of a path that we have to take. I think if you keep it open-ended, we should be fine with the way those three sentences lead together. If you read, right now it says, the age 5 cutoff may lead to some students losing the protections of the special ed system because no specific diagnosis can be made. It may also lead to other students improperly diagnosed due to the need to make diagnosis prematurely. The task force therefore will further explore the developmental delay exceptionality remaining available through age 7.
I think what I would hope that it says, and after that, before the task force, however, there is concern that, increasing that age, may lead to teens, not identifying students' educational classification in a timely manner or something like just one sentence there. Why what is the discussion still? We're starting the discussion. We should at least just give that.
While balancing in the same sentence, while balancing the needs for specific diagnoses when appropriate.
So I guess the other big picture too is that the diagnosis doesn't define the services, right?
No, I said educational classification. So just, not delaying the attributing an educational classification or something along those lines. Maybe Jen has a better way to say it, but Brian still got that hand raised, so maybe he does too.
No, I think the hand's stuck on his.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Jen.
Thanks. I was just going to say, because this was in the work group that I was in, and we had discussed putting in something like in the absence of another a clear diagnosis. So, because I think Catherine was bringing up like autism before, like that's a diagnosis that we can diagnose pretty early, especially for kids that are coming out of birth to 3 and have a lot of data to support those. And the concern was that those students wouldn't be properly identified as on the spectrum, even with evidence to show that they should be. So language that kind of supported that. And I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was in the recommendations that Amy Turner had sent.
Hi, this is Susan. I was in that same group, and those recommendations seem to have disappeared because we're also including students that are deaf, blind, hard of hearing, because those are clearly things that need to be part of it. So I do you know where that wording went? Do you have the email from Amy possibly? Because it was in there.
I don't know. I mean, I thought I incorporated everything I got.
You had it in a previous version
Yeah.
on your report. It was in there before and it's not there anymore.
I think the last version of the report. Let me see if I can find it, but.
Well, how about the last sentence? Task force therefore finds that will, further look into whether the developmental exception of ability should remain available through age 7, except in the case where there's a clear diagnosis earlier.
Except in the case where there's a clear educational classification.
Except in the case of what?
Where there's a clear educational classification. Is there a period after that?
Well, earlier classification earlier.
Earlier. I thought, yeah, I thought that's it.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Do we want a mid-morning break or do we want to keep on plowing through?
I think we should keep.
We only have to- keep going.
Let's go.
Ooh.
Just get going. A lot of things going on today.
Anything else?
Under behavior, so for the next section.
Yeah.
Behavior, the 5th paragraph. Reporting. So the last sentence, where there are high levels of restraint and seclusion, the department needs to audit schools to ensure that these interventions are not being used inappropriately. Audit doesn't really help solve the problem. So I would say support or something to, audit just has
You could just delete,
accounting function.
you could delete from start with needs, delete the next few words, and then to ensure. The department needs to ensure that these interventions are not being used inappropriately.
That'd be all right.
I'm sure the department does do that, but hopefully.
I already agree. I highlighted, does everybody see that? Delete those 3 words.
To audit schools, yeah. Brian.
Let's see, that it's under services 2 for pre-kindergarten.
Oh, is that pre-K? Okay.
So that's
There-
on page 30.
The last, so not the last paragraph, but the last sentence before.
Oh, we took that because that was what,
All
John?
right.
Okay, pre-K, what, where, Brian?
Not the last paragraph, but the paragraph right before that, the final sentence, children born in September, October, November,
Yeah.
absent the waiver, continue to receive weaker special education services for 1 additional year. I would suggest continue to receive PPT recommended special education services for 1 additional year in preschool.
Thanks, Brian. I had that, but I'm completely confused. All my papers are everywhere, so I have not stayed organized.
Yeah, PPT, LCAS, right?
Yes.
Christie's.
For 1 additional year in preschool.
In preschool.
Preschool.
At the end.
And preschool.
Yeah, at the end of the sentence. Is there a way we can add page numbers to it when we're all done?
I'll add them in right now.
Please.
Right.
I wish Richard, oh, could add line numbers too. Susan,
Okay.
what Susan's got her hand up.
Okay, great. I found the wording, of course, for the eligibility, and I'll get it. I can put it in the chat because my the email from the notes just disappeared. But under behavior, under where you're talking about the task force feels that it should be notification on the day of. So I believe it's under eligibility and it's number 3, behavior.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The SAC has a finding that there's a need for that notification to be made in the language of the parent or the guardian. Because often you have a student that does speak English, but the parents do not.
Okay, you're in.
I didn't know if you,
Your behavior, what paragraph of behavior?
I think it's the 5th down.
Under current law, is that the one, Susan?
Yeah, my iPad, for some reason decided not to close down while I was looking at it. So-
Yeah, okay, we just add at the end of that sentence, and in the language understandable by parent?
Yeah, in the language of the parent, because Representative Curry, it was discussed with him and they thought that was under the ESL rights. And that is the rights for the student, but not, that doesn't cover the parents' language, because you're notifying the parents, so it should be in their mode of communication.
Yes,
That's a recommendation, so.
about the middle of the,
I'll do it. I'll do it.
So kind of on the same area, under current law, the task force finds, that this sounds like a recommendation, that a parent should be notified on the day of the restraint or seclusion. We've had lots of conversations. We've had lots of conversations with SAC about this. And as I am hoping to maybe revise this to say every effort should be made to notify parents within 24 or within on the same day. Concase agrees that it should be, but we also recognize there are some limitations to that, including the fact that we try to get a hold of parents, voicemails are full, and how do we then, we're concerned that district can be held accountable for not reaching parents, and being able to indicate, hey, we left a message because the old message was available.
I certainly understand that issue. I thought the issue you're gonna raise is it sounds like a recommendation, not finding.
Well, so it does the way it's worded. It sounds like a recommendation, or a recommendation, not a finding. And I'm wondering if we reword it, the next report, we can have further discussion about what that recommendation would be.
Do you have a suggestion of how to reword it to make it sound less like a recommendation and more like a finding?
Such common sense to reach out, obviously.
Sure.
That's like, why are we even mentioning it? But it does, if they're not, then it's crazy. You say was looking into his reviewing the finding. I mean, it's so silly to say it like that, but.
Can it be something like the task force finds that timely communications with parents or guardians is essential to something like that? And then obviously our recommendation would be more specific.
The task force finds that timely notification of parents of the seclusion and restraint in the language of the parent is desirable so the parent can discuss the matter with the child.
And I don't know if we want to say parent or parent guardian or family, but I think parent is alone isn't the right way.
Parent/guardian.
That's fair.
Okay. Got that, Tara?
No, I got it. Black task force time, timely, would you say timely communication, right?
Yeah. See, this is why we have to rely on the absence.
Yeah.
So, you know, okay, school system.
Was the task force finds that timely communication with a parent or guardian,
In the language.
okay?
In their language.
Language.
I was just gonna say that the concept of notice, you know, and we can talk about this when we actually get the recommendation, but notice requires documentation of attempt, right? So that notice doesn't necessarily mean connection.
I
So,
think we delete that.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the day that the restraint or seclusion occurs. We need something that.
Yeah. Take out in the language of the parent.
Getting to the close.
Yeah.
For 11 or 11:30.
Yeah,
Communication with
so-
peer guardian.
For 11.
11. No,
Thirty.
it was 11:30.
11:30.
I think we need another, everyone needs to read that sentence, it's not right.
In their language on the day.
Sorry.
Um,
Is necessary, is,
and I don't know that.
I said desirable, but I think that's.
I think the issue here is timely communication, not
Yeah,
that they can
so
necessarily
on-
discuss the matter with their child.
Delete.
Well, but I think that's the issue. That's why you want timely
The
communication.
the timely replaces on.
that's first fine, but family communication,
I like
with
this.
parent guardian in their language.
I like should.
After. Instead of just delete that and after restraint.
Is most desirable, at the end of that sentence is most desirable.
It's just.
Hold on, we got it, we're getting it.
You're getting
We're
it.
getting it, even though it does look like the after is also crossed off. I don't know why.
In their language.
I got rid of the.
Is desirable.
Yeah. I mean, the recommendation is probably gonna be talking about how to document it.
You got it, Heather?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Not enough just to email.
Um,
Anything else?
I want to do this because. But, above number 2, under current issues, I don't know if that sounds like, a recommendation. I obviously made clear my feelings on it, but above number 2, the task force finds that the cap on excess cost reimbursement undermines local education programs. Full funding is needed to provide the sort of catastrophic coverage that the program is intended to provide. I mean, I couldn't agree more, but in current issues, above number 2.
Current issues is that to be.
Yeah,
Current issues, okay.
And.
someone's gotta give me a page number.
Well, mine are.
I don't know where you're at.
Under excess cost reimbursement.
We got papers all over the place. I'm not working.
It's on page 10.
Thank you.
This one for patients.
There it is, right there.
Okay, task force finds the cap on excess cost reimbursement.
I mean,
That's not a recommendation.
Okay.
I think that's fine.
Well, the next
Full funding
It's
is, I
full
mean,
funding.
Yeah.
I mean,
Full
I
funding would
agree.
be.
So it's above number 2, other state funding for special ed, that's not in that. The task force finds that the cap on is undermines local education programs, that's good finding, but then it says full funding is needed to provide the sort of catastrophic coverage that the program is intended to provide. That's factually accurate, but I don't know if it means it's a
Could you
recommendation.
say, full funding
Task force
would
will
provide?
Continue to investigate, or will continue to, to identify specific recommendations. Just because we have this second.
What if we said, the task force finds that the cap on excess cost reimbursement undermines local education programs. And fails to provide the sort of catastrophic coverage.
Yes, yes,
Sounds nastier and it's accurate.
yeah, and fails to provide, I like that.
That's something better.
And fails to provide the sort of cap. Okay, perfect. Anything else?
This might feel like picky, but under the section of, eligibility, identification, the last paragraph right before number 2, where it goes into age limit for development delay category. It says smaller classes provide more individual attention and also afford a less chaotic environment, which is conducive to learning. I'm not sure about that, and also afford a less chaotic environment. Because there can be
Maybe.
chaotic environments with 5 students and
Right.
orderly environments with 30, and I'm not sure that either of those, I feel like that's somebody made an
If we
assumption.
deleted from
Just the
and
and.
to environment,
Sorry, say it again?
if it is, we say smaller class sizes provide more individual attention, which is conducive to learning, and delete from
Yes,
and to
exactly.
environment.
Yes, that's what I would
agree. I have
suggest.
Students who are,
I
at
would
least
agree.
5 students
I
who are in
agree.
trouble. They have no services.
Can I just press a little bit on the word provide opportunity for?
Mm.
Right, because we're still making an assumption that the learning is taking place in a smaller, with a small class size,
Correct.
that way, yeah.
And that
Opportunity.
there's a highly trained teacher that is effective.
So where's that going?
In that,
Smaller
That
classes
is-
provide an opportunity for more
Provide-
individuals,
provide opportunity for or provide an opportunity for.
provide more of an opportunity.
Smaller classes provide opportunity for more individual attention, which is conducive to.
Yes.
Sorry, Susan, I couldn't follow you.
Provide an opportunity. I don't think it needs an opportunity. Provide.
Can I just
Yeah, don't worry.
say
Go ahead.
one more and then I'm done with mine, if you don't mind, Susan? Under services and staff shortages, the second sentence, the cause of these shortages differ somewhat between occupational categories. Should we also say, like, they also differ amongst districts? So it's not just about occupational categories, it's also, we see varying shortages district to district, which I think is worthy of noting. And that's it. for
Can
me.
we do the first paragraph?
Yeah, the second sentence, the cause of shortages differ.
Between the occupational categories and across, and between districts?
Yeah, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, I was gonna
Yeah,
put,
I think-
oh, sorry, I was gonna put the wording in the chat, but there is no chat feature. So, the wording is under eligibility age, and the notes from the subcommittee that was under eligibility. It says, the planning and placement team may continue to provide special education services under the disability category of developmental delay until the age of 8 years old if specialized instruction is required, only in the absence of an identifiable disability category. So the wording that's missing is only in the absence of identifiable disability category, parentheses, for example, autism, hearing impairment, speech and language impairment after a comprehensive evaluation. So Amy might have the right words, but they seem to have disappeared from our last document, and we discussed it at our last meeting.
Well, the language we arrived at was, except in the case where there is a clear educational classification earlier.
Right. It would be
That's-
good, when we make our recommendations, maybe we should be a little bit more specific.
I think that's appropriate.
Yeah, and just, yeah, okay. All right, thank you so much. I don't know where the magical chat feature went, so.
Thank you, Susan.
Thanks.
Thank you, Sally, you got it, Alicia?
Yeah.
Yes,
yes. We're on it. You're doing a great job, guys.
Have to take it all.
On Alicia's, kind of paired area, so just kind of trying to stick with areas, helps me organize my mess over here. Apologize. The second paragraph talks a lot about, and I agree with all of it. I also, it talks about how special education teachers are seen as kind of a second-class set of teachers. Unfortunately, I don't think that perception is only outside of the school. I think it also happens inside of the school, and some of it, I believe, is a poor understanding of our general education colleagues, including a poor understanding of what their roles and responsibilities are vis-a-vis supporting students with special education needs. And I feel that there should be something in here that talks to a increasing, like our general ed colleagues might have one special ed course to get their certification. I think that's fully inadequate, especially in this day and age when we're trying to really reinforce inclusive practices. And so,
Sounds like a recommendation.
Sounds like it, that can be.
but I think that that there is a poor understanding of special education, what special education is by general education.
So, Josh, why don't you, draft a sentence that you think is looking, put in there, right? I'm just kidding, concerning that, we just, the certification bill just passed.
Yeah.
And
Easier, right?
what?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Just trying to make it easier.
Yeah.
We're gonna recommend.
You're an air breather. You go the wrong direction.
But I like the word, I
What?
do like.
That's a little overstated.
No, I don't think so.
I do
Connecticut's
like
better
the
than others.
word perplexing in there, because I have to say, when the task force brought that up, that there was less respect, I had never seen that, so
I remember you saying that.
yeah, and so it's perplexing to me. Why would they have less respect for special?
I can just speak from, I think, one of the more ground level people here. Teachers are exhausted because the majority of their classes have either an IEP and a 504 in my district. Many classes.
Yeah.
And it is a lot to demand of teachers, to our professionals, to review these individual plans and make sure that they're on part. I know that urban districts, larger districts, we're a medium at best size suburban district, but much more diverse, 30% be reduced. So for me, that's what I hear from my colleagues, because I'm on the line as a school counselor between special ed and regular education. And it's usually not about the teachers. It's about what are we supposed to do? And perhaps that's what comes in place. Like, why am I not getting more help? Well, because they're strapped, because they have caseloads that are enormous right now. So I think we're all in the boat
They don't know where
together.
the special ed teacher is, so they just assume they're doing nothing. They don't fully, gen ed teachers don't
Yeah.
fully understand.
They're in the
scope
hospital
of
dealing
the
with their
work.
ulcers.
Yeah.
They have an issue.
I think we're making some generalizations that
Yeah, I'm asking for this to be.
could be a little offensive to general education teachers too, because I don't think we all
No, I don't think so.
are in that same boat.
We've steered away from sort of perceptual statements.
Yeah, I think we should probably, hold off on that a little bit, but the idea about having more special ed coursework, maybe we can investigate that when we look at
Or
our
PD.
recommendations.
I mean, really.
We ought to mandate more PD. And we
Pay the
want,
teachers.
I think that's the fact that we blood more pathogens once a year.
We should do it every 3 months.
I hope that's sarcastic. I didn't work in that. Yeah, I don't know you well.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you for the
Assume
verification.
she's sarcastic.
Fair enough. Let's start from that
Yep,
point.
yep.
Yeah.
People make the statement that general education teachers experience one often only experience one special education course in their pre-service.
I don't know if that's true. Is that true, Sally?
They tried to change it to add more, and the language was soft enough that you could embed special ed content in other courses. So it is still only required to have one course and then content across courses. But when they say that, content across courses, it doesn't tend to happen. Most programs do just have that one.
On the other hand, if we're looking at increasing the number of pre-service special ed courses, that's at the cost of something else, and teachers' requirements are now pretty booked up, right?
Yeah, and changing too.
Well, I'm hoping we make some progress on that in the certification standards board, but I would say that it worries me that special ed teachers and regular ed teachers only have one reading course.
That's changing, I think, more so.
Is it?
From my perspective, yeah, we have at least 3 in our elementary ed program now.
Good,
So, yeah,
because, but only one is required.
right.
Anything else? So here's the plan. We're going to provisionally accept this report today with the knowledge that there will be a change in some of the language. And it will be sent out when, Andy?
Well, I don't, Karen, you're doing it on the Google Doc now?
It's done.
We have it done. It's all done on the Google
Oh,
Doc.
it's done?
Done.
Real
Draft-
time.
Yeah,
So-
draft report current and there's page numbers and everything.
And does it show changes or not?
No, you just said.
But you can look at
You can-
history,
you
there's a
can go
little
and look at
button, and you can
history.
see where the edits were.
You can look at the history if you want to, but it's a clean version. So if you were to download it as a Word document, it would be a clean version of what we have. If you want to go into the Google Doc, you can look at this.
Well, Dawn, could you send it out to everybody? I mean, it's.
Well,
I have it already.
Everybody has it already, it's the
But-
document that you had on Google that they've already made the changes on.
Do you want me to send the link back out to the group?
Yeah, but I'd like us to go into a Word document.
I think.
Okay.
You know, I think the
It's a
Google Doc.
generational thing.
I would-
Everyone in for
Yeah, I would say a couple of reasons for that. The Google document, I want you to, I would love it if every member looked at the Google document to see what the changes were, and then go to the Word document. And we're gonna need a formal vote on that, all right? So that's why I'm asking for the Word.
The other option, Fran, is to switch it to a view only or comment only.
Yeah, I was
copy, So
thinking
nobody
view
can
only.
edit it,
Yeah,
but they could put their comments in, then we know everyone's voting on the same
That's good.
revised version.
Yeah, okay, then the comments,
I agree with you.
I'm sending the link in the Google Doc,
You have to
and
change the
a Word
permission.
doc.
No, don't send the Word doc.
Don't send the Word
Let's
doc.
change the permissions on the Google Doc so nobody can edit it, that people can only comment on
Is
And
view
then-
only allows comments?
it. View only doesn't allow comments, we can change it to comment only.
Okay.
all right, so the comment would just be approved.
Or we can say view only,
I'm
if you don't
gonna
want
reply all to the email that Dawn had inviting everybody.
the.
But it's whoever owns the.
I just need to be really clear.
Well, that-
I want us to be really clear that this document was approved by the task force, period, that's all. Tell me how to do that and I'll do it.
The only thing about a Word document, it's like someone has one original, I don't know.
Yeah, that's why.
You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, you have one original Word document, like someone has, like, I know someone's gonna be the owner of this other document, but
That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
you're our generation. I would
I
prefer,
like the Word document,
What do you-
yeah.
I would prefer manuscript on parchment.
People kind of like, oh, I put a stone tablet.
We will go with the Word document, because only Andy can change the permissions, and then we have the Word doc from today.
I
We
don't
can
know
go on
how
the
I have-
documents, we can't change. the
I have access, I don't know why I'm not changing everyone to a commenter.
I prefer if we can send an email with the Word document attached and, just have you approve it, all
Yeah.
right? Just so that we have one document,
Yeah, we don't
It's
need,
out
we don't
there.
need comments.
yeah.
And you
it's
want us
approved.
to approve in the email, even if we were here today?
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Yeah, let's.
we'll send it out, we'll respond.
Yeah, and Dawn will figure out a way that we
I
can
have,
get the
I'm gonna
approval.
reply all and then sending it out to reply all the document in a Word
With the
doc,
Word.
the Word document.
Okay.
Yes, is that what you want me to do?
Okay,
Yes.
The Word document's going out.
all right, send it out and just say,
When you want approval
What do you
by.
want?
yeah, each person needs to
But time-
reply approved.
Will we approve it tomorrow night?
Yeah, but I need Dawn to be on that copy, please.
Dawn's on it.
Okay,
By 6 o'clock tomorrow. Okay.
yeah.
I'll reply all.
Huh?
AM or
I mean, legitimately, that's a good question.
Yeah. 6 o'clock PM. 6 o'clock PM tomorrow.
6 PM on,
Oh, yes.
on May
If they approve or
8th.
disagree,
Yeah, or disagree.
document as a whole.
If anybody disagrees, you're in trouble.
All right.
No,
I think you should tell me you're good. Hold on.
Are you the representative now, Kate? Okay, okay.
So, Amy is away. She's going to be away for, some sort of conference.
OSHU.
John Martin. At East Adams Schools. .org.
When do you want to do the next meeting?
Can we set meetings for next
All right,
year?
I'm sending
What?
it.
Yeah.
Can we set meetings for next year? Can we also set meetings for?
Yeah, we should.
Yeah.
We should
Like,
say,
if we have a.
we should also make a decision as to whether we're gonna do any outreach, any, chance for people to comment. There's a lot of stuff that we took out which was sort of perceptual. And if we're gonna include any of that, we need some basis for that. As to how teachers feel or how parents feel, or how kids in the system feel. Or parents.
With no money and no assistance to do it.
Right, I mean, if your outreach is simply having a public hearing or a hearing, you will only get, that still won't be representative necessarily of parents or teachers or whoever else.
Well,
I think
People
our,
only just show up if they have an issue. In my experience.
Catherine, were you speaking?
Yeah, sorry. I mean, my concern is just that moving forward, when looking for recommendations, if it's gonna be that constant, where's the data from a parent perspective, it's not, for lack of a better term, it's not fighting fair. It's not comparing apples and oranges. That's not really fair. So we have to come up with a way to capture more across the board parent experience that we can, use for decision making.
But absent the expenditure of considerable sums, we can't produce anything that we say is representative.
No, if it's 5 or 6 parents, it's not thousands of parents. We get thousands of parents an opportunity, so,
Yeah, I think we should give that opportunity.
but we would need money from somebody, right?
Well, between you and Leslie, you both have tons of money in your budget, right?
Right?
2 years ago, yeah.
Right, we stand on the whole meeting.
Poor Leslie, poor Leslie.
Ryan has the money.
I'm sending you all a lot of love right now.
My concern is, having people to do this, and I'm all for it, and as much as.
Brian really
input
does.
we can
I think Brian's hand
Brian
actually,
actually
I don't think.
Oh, maybe Brian has.
I think he actually has his hand up.
Comment, yeah. Andy, were you suggesting public comment on this report that we're reviewing? Or are you suggesting moving forward for the next year to access public comment?
Oh.
On this report?
The way with
I mean,
the first,
this report would be a basis that people could comment on, but they can
Yeah.
also
The
comment on.
latter, the
I mean,
latter. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
so just with the issue with the report, I feel as though this committee was charged with doing this work and represent all the various stakeholders and perceptions, so would not need to go out publicly for this particular report. I think it's always good to get input and feedback, but I think part of the responsibility of being on this committee is to bring the voice forward for those that are represented.
And that's my thinking too.
Yes.
I mean, I may not agree with this, some of the things, but if the superintendents I know feel a certain way, I have to bring that to the table. And I'm assuming that everybody else brings that to the table. So you're not here by yourself. You're here as representing a constituency.
Just quick, to Catherine's point, who are the members that are representing the parent voice? I know.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
So that's good, but I don't know how to hear.
Well, I'm here as a parent.
okay. Thank you.
I mean, yeah, there's not. We could talk about the numbers, but it's,
Yeah.
it's difficult to try to bring things forward without having a study of Connecticut parents in this exact position to share, right? So it's gonna have to be something that we consider fairly.
Make a suggestion that since the education chairs are engaged in this process somewhat, and the education committee has the ability to hold hearings if they want to, maybe go to the chairs and see if they want to hold a special interim hearing during the off session.
Yeah, and I'm thinking of all there are some quantifiable things. I mean, Brian, and we can brainstorm. I know we could go through, some of the complaints and we can have a good time indexing those. I mean, CPAC has pretty in-depth records of, I shouldn't speak for you, Jen, but you have records of parent issues, quantity of parent issues, type of issues. So there are some things that are quantifiable. I don't want to say as if there's nothing, but it's, we're going to have to take it for what it is.
Well, for next year, when do you want to begin meeting again? Which will be the second phase. I can almost guarantee you that we will have a meeting, called by, the chairs of the education committee at some point in time. I don't know when that will be, but I think after the session ends, there will be some interest in this. Might be August, but when do you want to begin a whole cycle of, starting again on the recommendations, knowing that they're due when?
I think January first.
February first.
I think January first.
February first of 25.
I'm very confused.
I thought
it was February 2025.
I thought it was January.
February what?
Of 2025.
2025, right? Okay. That's not that far
I
off.
would say, I think we need to start.
We need to
next
start.
month.
Yeah.
We originally had the second Tuesday of the month that we were meeting on. Are we thinking of going back to that and being consistent?
The Tuesdays are very difficult for me.
Oh, yeah, well, I don't, if we can stay
Um,
consistent, that would be helpful.
Yeah, Tuesday mornings are hard.
Yeah, if we could switch it to Wednesday, I'd appreciate it. Only because I have another long-term commitment and I've missed it all year. So, Wednesday.
Wednesdays, we have to be careful because that is when the SAC has most of their meetings, and there's several people on this group that are also on the SAC. And I believe, Brian, don't you also have meetings sometimes on Wednesdays?
Or Thursdays.
No.
Well,
January.
Wednesday, it's the first Wednesday is the Board of Ed, State Board of Ed meetings. And then Susan, we set the calendar for the State Advisory Council, right? So we can make sure we don't conflict with that.
We do the second Wednesday, would that work for everybody?
Sure.
I can't do Wednesdays in the
Can't do
mornings, but I can send
you
it to
can't do
whoever.
Wednesday?
In the morning, I can do afternoons, but I can send someone else from next door.
Or later.
But I have a standing meeting until 10 o'clock every Wednesday.
What, I could do the first Tuesday of the month.
What about, are Thursdays better for people?
Would that work?
Sure.
The first Tuesday?
First Tuesday?
Tuesday is better for me. First Tuesday works for me.
Okay, if the first Tuesday of the month?
What, you send out something, you sent something out, just we can hold it?
Yeah, no, I will, we'll send it out with all the dates on it, all right?
Yeah.
But if we start with the first Tuesday, when do you want to begin? I know it's the end of the year, guys. When do you want to start again?
Well, I think we've got to come up with a work plan. If all we're going to do is discuss recommendations. Well, I mean, one reason we're not doing recommendations is because we don't have all the data supporting the recommendation. And so I think we need a meeting soon to set up a work plan and discuss what we're going to do and how we're going to get the information we need. And then maybe have a hiatus for the summer, once some of that work is done.
Coming from a 12-month school program.
Right.
I would say no hiatus in the summer, only because it's so quick. I mean, look how long it took us to get to findings. And if we don't meet that September, October, November.
Yeah, we only have
December.
a few.
As long as you keep the
Yeah.
Zoom option, I can participate, but not
So,
just. we're not-
I would
Say we want to start on June 4th?
That's good.
Looks like we're gonna break up.
Stephanie, I will not be available in July. We have our annual meeting in Philly this year, so you will not be available.
And that may happen. We may.
How many would be available in July and August?
Depending on date.
Maybe, we'll try, like, you know what I mean?
Okay.
You know.
And we have.
July,
maybe my end of that, yes, before.
July.
All right, I think I'm just worried because the statute says January 1st, 2025.
The other thing is if we're gonna create a work plan and then break into work groups may be able to meet at their convenience over the summer.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And then at least we have the work groups that can figure out
Right.
things within the groups.
I can't do June.
All right, I'm going to do it for the first Tuesday of the month, beginning June 4th. Dawn will send it out to everybody. The first meeting will be the development of a work plan.
Did you say, Andy, you can't do this
I
one?
can't do June 4th. Let's go ahead and
Huh?
Well,
You
He's not
can't be
available.
here June 4th? Why? Why?
We have to decide whether it's excused.
If you need a wise guy, I could step in. I'm just saying.
Okay.
You want to know from Chris?
We can't do it without you, Andy.
Well,
How about that we do, any problem with doing June 3rd just for that
no,
week?
yeah, I can do June 3rd in the morning and late.
Okay, yeah. So
I can
you
do
got
that.
that on June 3rd for June, and then we'll go, the first Tuesday of the month from there on in.
Are we doing 9:30 to 11:30?
Yeah, 9:30 to 11:30.
I won't be able to be there, but that's okay.
Yeah, I
And so
can't,
the-
I can't be there.
Either on June 3rd.
ESD rep, our leadership meetings are Monday
I think we
morning.
just gotta meet, we come up with a plan and then we can find it.
Well,
Like, don't, we're not gonna get everybody together.
I would also solicit everybody to come up with their own ideas for what a work plan might look like, what it should take.
Yeah, I mean, we-
By email.
We had 3 subcommittees the last time.
Yeah.
I thought that worked really well, for dividing the work up because we can't do it all, together. I thought 3 subcommittees worked well,
We might
and
need a fourth one for the other, like, things that were not under services, eligibility and funding, like the other
Gifted
components.
talented.
yeah,
Like, we may need 4.
we might have 4, which is
We have
fine,
more members.
but,
Yeah, we have more.
but I mean,
You might want to call out of the report, each sentence has a finding in it.
right, yeah.
Did we miss gifted and talented? It just dawned on me because our subcommittee did work on it.
It's in there.
It's in there.
Okay, all right, thank you. My brain stopped for a minute. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we can pull out all the findings and then we can figure out the subcommittees. But I don't think we can function and get the work done without subcommittees to,
Yeah.
to move it forward.
Well, I do think we need some research support somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we need to request that.
What? I'm sorry.
Research support.
Who's gonna?
Sally students.
Not in 3 months, really, if you think about, right, when, 3 months, that's a quick turn for a research project.
We have some summer law students that I could, wait, why is that funny? That's
I
good.
love it. Put them to work.
I thought you said research. We can make them do things.
No, we're dealing with different level students. It's amusing to think of students doing things. Yale students are different, I'm sure.
Yeah, I wasn't, one of them, but they're very good.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you all.
Yeah, thank you.
I would also like to point out, I'm sorry, that we just put it on election day for next year. Is the first Tuesday. Do we want to?
Is there an election coming?
Do we want to move it that day, or are we gonna keep it on election day?
Why don't we move it?
Well, I'm keeping it election day because, a lot of schools aren't in session and,
Why not?
Okay,
what else do we have to do?
all right.
I'll be missing PD. It's like the gift.
You just have to vote.
Ungiven.
I just, I could have to know other people had things to do that day.
I might be sucking my thumb.
All right, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Don't forget to vote on the,
On election.
on the finding. No.
By 6 p.m. tomorrow.
What about, you will look back.
Yeah.
That was very good.
Oh, absolutely. Well, here tonight, graduation. Oh, great. We have graduate graduation.